to order at 5:30. And welcome everyone. Do we have any public appearances? Item number 2 on the agenda. Wendy, no emails?
Nope.
Okay. Then we thought we would start with a brief introductions of everybody. Wendy, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm Wendy. I'm the library director. Been here since 2010. Ooh, there's Renee connecting. Excellent.
Okay.
Hi, Renee. We're just getting started and we're doing introductions. So I'm the library director. I've been here since before we opened the library in 2010. Toby, do you want to go next?
Sure. Toby Marcial. I joined the library board, Wendy, 2 years ago? Maybe
2 or 3, maybe 3.
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I'm happy to help out Wendy and the staff in any way that I can. Former educator. John, do you want to go next?
Yeah. I'm John Cerny. I'm entirely new. I know nothing right now. Looking forward to learning about you folks and library operations.
I actually know John from a Play-Doh class that I teach, a film class on Monday mornings. So nice to see you, John.
Nice to see you.
Mark, you're up.
I'm Mark Lee. I teach in the Oregon School District. I am a library media specialist, primarily with Brooklyn Elementary, but also district-wide. I'm on the district-wide library coordinator as well. And I'm serving as a school liaison on the library board, and I'm brand new, so.
Thank you, Mark. Jay?
I'm Jay Allen. I'm a city council member. I was on the city council for about 20 years, and then I was the mayor for a couple of 2 years, and then I was gone for a couple of years, and now I'm back like a bad penny. So I was actually mayor when the library was voted, when we voted to approve the library and get it built. And I was one of the happy people who pushed for having the geothermal installed. But yeah, here we are.
Thank you, Jay. Renee, welcome.
You're mute. Oh, there
Hi.
you go.
Yep. Sorry about that. Just took me a minute. My name's Renee Eastman. This is my first meeting. I'm a regular patron of the library, and that's about my only relevant experience. So I'll leave it at that. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you as well. We're going to skip item number 3 on the agenda, approval of the minutes, because the only people who can actually approve the minutes are myself and Anne, who
And
is.
Jay. Actually, we
Jay.
can probably,
Oh,
we've
Can
got
we
Jay
do it
here.
with-
We can probably go ahead and do it. Yeah.
we do it with 2, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll
then-
move to approve the minutes.
And I will second it. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, Jay? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The approval of the minutes passes. Thank you. Item number 4 is treasurer's report.
All right, so you've got the February register and the overview. So typically, for those of you that are new, what I do is just go through and kind of point out anything that I think is kind of unusual or that you should know about on both documents. And then we approve them together with a vote.
Wendy?
So yeah,
I'm sorry, does everyone know how to open that? Have you gone over that with them or?
yes, we do went over that in orientation.
Thanks.
All right, so looking at the register, one of the things I wanted to point out is in account 240, we had entrance technologies. We've got a charge there for $21.50. That is the interior vestibule doors. The opener was, I think, opening but not closing. We had problems with the front door. Wait, so no, this one was closing, not opening. The very front door was doing the opposite. It was opening, not closing. So this closer actually needed a full replacement. So that's what that was. You'll see, this is kind of exciting in account 291, Havens Petting Farm. We are back to doing in-person programs, and this is going to be our kickoff for summer reading program on June 10th. We haven't done in-person programs for a long time, and we haven't had performers since early 2020. So excited to see that going back into action. We've got airfare here. That's unusual for us. That is for the PLA conference. We sent one staff member that was in Portland. You won't see that often. Let's see, anything in yellow, just as a reminder, is over $5,000. So it has to be approved by the treasurer. The two that are yellow this month are very standard for us. So we've got Madison Gas and Electric. That's almost always going to be over $5,000. And then our IT allocation for the city of Fitchburg. So we pay that monthly, whereas for our IT services from South Central, we pay that as an annual fee. But you'll see that almost every month. You'll also see down at the very bottom of the register, library shelving. So this was a special project that we did for strategic planning. This is display shelving that we added in front of the hold shelves. We had some display tables there that weren't very functional. So now we've got full shelving with tops that we can put displays on. That was funded by the Friends of the Library in 2020, I think, or 2021. So we've been carrying those funds forward. With the pandemic, we didn't feel like it was the right time to move forward. And then we finally did. We ordered it last year, but we didn't get it until this year. So we had to push the funds forward another year. So that is what you see there. Looking at the overview then, are there any questions on the register before I move on to the overview?
I actually do have a
I
question.
have one.
Yeah.
Jay, you want to go first?
Yeah, I was just on the Havens Petting Farm. Is that an event that happens at the library, on the library grounds, or does that happen somewhere else?
No, it's on City Hall grounds. It's going to be in that area where the geothermal wells are dug. So it's in between
Okay,
the library and the parking lot for City Hall.
great.
Yeah, we've done it a couple times there. It's a really nice big space to be able to do it there.
Thank you, Jay. My question, Wendy, was we usually run between 5,000 and 6,000 on Madison Gas and Electric, and I was surprised that it was 8,700.
Yes. So remember that this was paid in February, so it would have been for January.
Okay, which was
So
cold.
it's always a little bit higher in the colder
Thank you.
months.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. So I'll move on to the overview. There is an error here, and I'm sure this is my fault, but in the longevity account, it looks like we're overspent there. In actuality, and this has been corrected, so you'll see a corrected version next month. The budget amount there was actually $2,070, not $1,665. The budget has not been published by the city yet because they were waiting on some town of Madison information from the DOR. So we will double check all of these accounts as soon as that is up. So we are not overspent there. We are very overspent in another account that I wanted to point out, and I'm going to blame it on Kevin Richmond. This is uniform allowance. So we don't, in the past, we haven't done this, but we took 2 part-time custodian positions last year and transferred that into 1 full-time position starting in January, late December. And so we wanted to add uniform shirts for that position. And we based the $150 on what we paid the last time around, which was 2 or 3 years ago. And costs for embroidery have skyrocketed. I don't exactly understand why, but we will be finding a new vendor for this the next time we do it, which will probably be in 2 years. But so that is very overspent. It's not a whole lot of money, so I don't think it's a problem, but I just wanted that minus 132% is a little bit shocking. Everything else I think looks good. We were a little bit low on collection this month, but as we know, that kind of ebbs and flows depending on what's being published. And when we receive things. So not worried about that at all. I would like to point out in the revenue section, so that's the blue section, that copy fees are way up. I think we made almost nothing in that account last year. We installed the print management system. We are consistently getting fairly large cash deposits and credit card payments. So things are really looking up there, and I think we're going to finally recoup our costs for that service. So happy about that. I see that Anne is here. Hi, Anne. Can we ask you to introduce yourself? We did a quick round of introductions earlier, just so that the new folks know who you are.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Anne Camillo. I think this is my 4th year on the board. Really happy to be part of the, the grassroots board community involvement. We're always so pleased with the job that Wendy does. So it's a pleasure to be on this board because she's so organized and the great meeting notes and everything. So I think you'll have a wonderful, time experience on the board. I work at Madison College in human resources and specifically in employee learning and training. So really happy to welcome you and look forward to meeting you in person someday, right?
We hope so. Thank you. Okay, any questions on the register or the financial overview? Sorry.
Okay.
If not, we can vote on
There's
that.
no discussion. Could someone please give me a motion to approve and then second the February financial record register and overview?
So moved.
And I need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Anne. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And can we go back now to approval of the minutes?
Oh, no, we already did.
We did,
We don't-
because Jay was
sorry.
here. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
I had that on my thing.
Yep.
Okay. Unfinished business,
Nope,
none.
none.
Item number 6, new business, election of new officers.
All right, so our nominating committee, I believe, was Toby and Ann and Brock, who is no longer here. So I will let you present your slate.
So what I found out is if you get on the nominating committee, you actually get nominated for something. So the slate is that I will take over as president following Stephen Arnold, who did a fabulous, wonderful job and was kind enough to send me information about how to run the meetings and upcoming personnel issues that might arise. And Anne has graciously agreed to be treasurer for the next year. So with that said, we would need a motion to approve that slate.
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you, Jay. And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
Thank you, Mark. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Anne.
And we should note that we will be adding a vice president in the future, but we didn't feel like it was fair to make a new person accept that on their first meeting. So that will be coming up in a future meeting.
And the truth is, I do attend most meetings. I don't think I've missed probably any, so easy job. So I hope one of you will accept that position. Moving on to resolution 6B, resolution R97-22.
All right, so we should probably have a motion and a second for this, and then we'll discuss.
Okay, motion to
So
approve.
moved.
Thank you. I will second.
Okay, so this is a resolution that we are bringing forward. It's a budget amendment. We don't do these often, although you're going to see another one next month, so it's going to feel like we do. We've done a handful of these, I think, over the life of the library. The situation here is that we have a $4,000 donation, very generous donation from the Friends of the Library in order to hire 2 part-time summer outreach assistants. This is something we have done in the past and that they have supported. I think the last time we did this was probably 2018. We did not budget for this position because we were not sure that we would be doing outreach this summer. We didn't have an outreach librarian hired. Keep in mind, we did this budget last summer. So at that time, we didn't even know who would be fully open or doing programs in person. But things have gone very well, and we hired Minda Maurer as our outreach librarian. She started late March. She has done this job in a previous in another library, so she knows what she's doing. So we thought there might be a lot of training involved, and maybe we wouldn't be full speed this summer, but I think we will be. She's got a great schedule of, she's calling them pop-up libraries that are going to be in different parks around the city. And so the Friends were real anxious to support us with summer reading this year. So this is something that we presented as a possibility, and they were excited about it. So essentially what we're doing is accepting that money and then changing the pay rate. So we recently increased the pay rate of our shelver positions, and we thought it would be appropriate to increase this one as well. This is on the LTE pay schedule, so it's not on the regular pay scale. So we are bringing them up to $15.50 an hour. And they will each work 115 hours over the summer. So we'll be right at that $4,000 mark. So this is just making sure that this gets included into the budget because it was not there originally. So it is fully funded. It doesn't change any of the other accounts. It just gives us more money in the 3 different accounts. So we've got the wage account, the FICA, and the insurance, workers' comp insurance. Are there any questions about this? Okay, so after we approve this, it will go to council next Tuesday. Jay, just so you know, I'm not going to be at that meeting. I'm going to be out of town. So if there are any questions, I think both Chad and Misty are up to speed on this, just in case.
Yeah, I'll be there, and
Okay.
I'm sure there won't be any problem getting it passed. It does, because it's a budget amendment, it's going to require a 2/3 vote, which would be 6 of the 8 council people, but
Yeah,
I don't really anticipate any issues with it.
okay. Excellent. Then we can vote on this.
Okay, all in favor of approving the resolution, please say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Excellent.
Moving on to new business 6C, the CIP discussion.
Okay, so this is something we do kind of throughout the year as things come up. We don't do, this is capital improvement projects is what CIP stands for. So this is if we're spending more than $10,000 on an item or a project, then it goes into the CIP. You can see from the paperwork here that we project out 10 years. So it is a real high level view. So these numbers are not exact. This is kind of our best guess. But I wanted to review these just so the library board knows kind of what we have coming up as far as large purchases. We could continue to add them, but I really like to be able to look out a number of years and not be surprised by anything. So the first page that you'll see is kind of an overview of all the different projects, but then we go through each page and it gives it a little bit more detail. So we'll start with project number 5202. This is the library outreach vehicle. So I don't know if you've seen our library van, but it's adorable. It's got our logo all over it, and it's got a fun little game where you can find different kind of hidden items on it. So you can play a little game with kids in the park. Essentially, we got this when we added the outreach position in 2017. And so what it's mostly used for is to pack up a bunch of fun games, activities, books to take out to the parks. So this is what Minda will be taking to do her pop-up libraries. It also comes in handy. We took a little field trip that we'll talk about in a little while to Chicago on Monday, and we got to take the library van. So we're not paying mileage for staff to go places, which is also great. So we purchased the current van in 2017. I put it in the CIP as a 10-year end of life. So, and I escalated the cost that we paid for it in 2017. So my best guess is $60,500. We may decide by that point that we don't want a van. We may decide that we need something else. It may be more or less expensive, but it at least gives us kind of a placeholder for knowing that that's when it would need to be replaced. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, I just have one. Do we have
Yeah.
any idea how many miles we're putting on that vehicle in a year?
Very few. It's got less than 4,000 miles on it total.
Okay, yeah, but 2 of those years don't count, so.
Right, right.
That's,
Even in a
maybe between 2,000 and 3,000 miles a year.
maybe. We don't really only use it in the summer. The last 2 years, we've had problems with the battery not being charged because we're not driving it enough. Was sort of assigning people to take it on a library errand if you could, just so that we were running it. But yeah, not a whole lot. Even, we were running to Leopold Park, 3 or 4 times a week. That's still not very much. So not a lot. Okay, moving on. Let's see. The next one we want to talk about is 5203. This is self-check machines. So if you're familiar with the library, we've got 5 self-check machines. We've had self-checks since we opened, and our staffing is kind of according to that. We run about 80% self-check, which is a lot. If we didn't have those, we would need a lot more staff time at the front desk to check people out. We last replaced those, I think, in 2016. They are not inexpensive. We will likely be changing vendors next time, so I don't know what that will do to the pricing, but I've got it for replacement in 2025. I think the end of life, like, I'm hopeful that we'll make it to 2025. We'll have to see kind of how things go. They're working great right now, and people really like them. So they read RFID tags. I think they're super easy to use. So we're happy with them, but replacement would be in 2025. Again, this is kind of a guess at a price. I think the price difference between different models varies greatly. So any questions about this one?
I do, Wendy.
Yeah.
You mentioned that we're going to be changing vendors. Why is that? Or you anticipate changing vendors?
So when we purchased our equipment originally, when we opened, we purchased our sorter, our self-checks, and our security gates all from the same vendor. And we purchased from one vendor, and then it was bought out by another vendor by the time we installed and opened. We've not been super happy with their service, and their equipment is expensive. Not to say that somebody else's isn't going to be expensive. We also have RFID pads, which is how you read the RFID tags and books at the desks. So if you're checking, if a staff member is checking somebody out, they've got a pad there. We replaced those with a different vendor that at the time had just newly been approved by South Central. Originally, there was just the one vendor available, so everybody was pretty excited to add a second one. So we're kind of moving in that direction. We are looking at the next thing we'll talk about is the sorter, and we're looking at a different vendor for that as well. The customer service for our current vendor is very poor, and thank goodness we don't need it very often. Okay, any other questions about self-checks? All right, so moving on to the next one is 5204 Automated Materials Handling System. So this is the big giant sorter that we have in the back room. Giant piece of equipment. It is what is attached to the drive-through book drop. So when you put your books in there, it comes down a conveyor belt. It reads the RFID tag. And then if it's our item, it's going to sort it into one of 6 bins that are set up kind of by location in the building. So we keep kind of things that are in one area in one place so that they can be carted up and then shelved. It also has a bin for exception. So if it is something that doesn't belong to us, needs to go to another library, if it's on hold, if it has a lost status, if it needs to be handled by a staff member, it goes into a separate bin. We're at 11 years of life. It's showing that we're having some small issues with sensors not working, that kind of thing. So we have had this on the CIP for a long time in 2023. So we are right now pretty actively gathering information on what we want in the replacement so that we can do it next year. Admittedly, it's a terrible time to be buying anything made out of steel. Prices are up. I've talked this over with a lot of people about should we push this off for another couple of years, and kind of the consensus is that prices are not likely to go down. And I don't know how many more years we can get out of this machine. I think life expectancy is 10 years. So we're kind of pushing it already. We went Monday down to Chicago to 2 different libraries that have an Envisionware sorter to kind of see what they were doing. They sent us to one library that was just a great kind of example, because we have this giant conveyor belt that comes in at a real high level on an angle, which is an odd setup. It's not, typically you're installing sorters so that you're just feeding it straight into the machine, but ours comes down a big conveyor belt and then feeds into the machine. And one of the libraries that we visited actually comes from a 2nd floor down to the 1st floor. So it's a kind of a nice equivalent of what we've got. Lots more features. It's much more, so in our current sorter, it goes over and over AB pad, it reads what it is, but it doesn't kind of keep track of it. So it basically tells the sorter down here, like the next item that you see, shoot it into this bin, but it doesn't actually read what it is. So the new sorters, every section is reading it, so it really knows what it is. We had our first summer with our current sorter where the timing belt was off, so it was shooting it into everyone into the wrong bin. And it was awful, and we don't have enough staff to deal with that because we have staffed this building based on having this piece of equipment. So I was super impressed with what we saw on Monday, and kind of surprised at how much the functionality has increased since we bought ours. So we're excited about that. It is very expensive. The $212,000 that I have budgeted here is based on one of 3 models that they have put together for us. This is a very preliminary price. We have a lot of things to talk about, details to go over. So we're not close to what the final price is, but I'm pretty confident in this number. We did increases from 190,000, which is sort of what our best guess had been.
So Wendy, this is not really expensive when you consider how many more people we would need on staff.
Yeah, I think I think we paid 125,000 for our current model in 2010. And I think if you extrapolated out sort of all the staff that we would have had to have over the 11 years that it's lasted, I mean, it certainly pays for itself. Yeah, so it's absolutely worth it in my mind, but it's still kind of a large amount of money to spend. And again, all of these that we've talked about so far are funded by the library fund balance. So it's money that we have saved and put aside over the years. So that's what it is. So it's not increasing the library levy. We're not asking the city for more money. This is money that we already have set aside for this. Any other questions?
Yeah,
I just have a quick one. Oh, go ahead.
I used to work for the state and did a lot of requests for bids. I don't know if that's what the city does or what the library does. Or
depends on the
something.
project. So for certain things you do, we are limited to vendors because of what's approved to work with our catalog. So we only have 2 that we can use, and I will try to get a quote from the other one, but I'm not hopeful.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Jay, what was your question?
So I presume that a piece of equipment like this is not something that they just have in stock and they can ship it out the day you order it. These are, I presume these are custom built. So from the time you order it to the time it gets delivered, what's the lead time on it?
I don't know that yet. When we had our first kind of serious meeting about this, probably in March, and they said and I said, this is for a 2023 purchase, and they said that's perfect. That's a good timeline. So I know that other libraries are getting them. Sun Prairie just installed a new one. I want to say last month, maybe. So they are manufacturing them. People are receiving them. I don't know how long it will take us to get it.
Okay.
We'll find out more, I think, as we move forward. Okay, then moving on to our last one, 5298. This is library building improvement and replacements. This one is an interesting one because it is a CIP project that we do with Public Works. So this is not technically under the library board's approval mechanism because it is paid for out of the city levy. So this is sort of the situation where the library building is owned by the city. So they are responsible for some parts of it and we are responsible for other. I think we've all heard if you picked up the library, turned it over and shook it, anything that fell out would be the responsibility of the library, and anything that stayed in is the responsibility of the city. So the sorter would fall out. That's why that's coming from fund balance. This one is sort of a few years after we opened, we decided that, there were things that were going to have to be replaced. We've had to replace some carpet already. We've had elevator issues. We're having chiller issues. So this is kind of a rolling CIP. Money goes into it every year to use for different projects for building things. We are using some of the money from this year to fund the design of the chiller replacement. So the chiller replacement has been put up for ARPA funding through the city. We're hopeful that has passed its first round of hurdles, but the design of it is, I think, going to be $40,000, and I think that's coming out of this one. So this isn't something that the library board can say we want to spend this on this certain thing without it going through Public Works and council. But but this helps the library overall. So I always want you to just see it so that you know that we've got funds, putting funds aside to deal with things as they come up. I expect carpeting will be a big one in the next probably 5 years. Our carpet gets a lot of use, and it's pretty heavy duty, but we're starting to see traffic patterns and that kind of thing. So yeah, any question about this?
Wendy, I have a question about the carpeting.
Yeah.
Have we considered next time we need to replace a big chunk going with piece carpeting where you can replace just
It is.
one piece that wears out?
That's what we have.
Is that what we have? Okay.
Yep, so we have attic stock, and we on a sort of regular basis go around and see where we need to replace things. We had a tragic vegetable oil spill in the youth services workroom one year. And that does not come out of carpet, no matter what you do to it. And so we had to replace a whole section. We've had to replace behind the service desks, kind of where the chairs are. I don't know that we've got enough attic stock to do like a full, like when you walk into the youth area, like that kind of that first, all the way back to the story time room is kind of looking kind of used. And I don't think we've got enough to do that. But yes, absolutely. I would do nothing other than squares.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Any other
do-
questions? Yeah.
Do we need to approve each one of these individually, or do we not?
I think you
approve
can do
each-
them as a whole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then is there any
Wait,
other?
before we do that, let me just mention, this is not in the packet because it is not a completed thing yet. And I don't have enough information to feel comfortable presenting it for approval. But we are working with Fact TV on a CIP that is maybe coming for next year. I will bring it to you with more information, probably with Jeremy from Fact TV to talk about it. The project is updating the AV equipment in the meeting room. It started out as being both the conference room and the meeting room, and that was pretty expensive. So I think that's probably not going to happen, but we need to. So Fact TV, when we have library board meetings in the building, they have cameras on the walls and they have an operator in their office and they film the meeting. They used to be aired live. I don't think they are anymore. They also have the ability to, if there's a public meeting, public information meeting, a council meeting, a committee of the whole meeting, that they could broadcast that live as well. The system has always had some glitches. So there's kind of a double audio system, and that we have a system to amplify with microphones, but that doesn't feed into the Fact system. So if you're, in fact, giving a presentation, you need to amplify in the room, but you're broadcasting, you have to be double mic'd. Some odd things like that I think just were kind of like not thought through well in the beginning when we installed the equipment. As some of you know, when we meet in the conference room, we have to have a whole bunch of microphones on the table, and they're wheeling in equipment. My hope was that we could get the conference room redone so that we could change that. What I think we're going to do is focus on the meeting room and probably move the library board meetings in there permanently, so that they've got a better setup. I think my original funding for that was going to be $20,000 from the library and the balance from Fact TV, but that was with both rooms. So Jeremy and I need to get together and talk about what the costs are going to be for that with just doing the meeting room. So that will probably come back to us later with more information. I just want you to have heads up about it as something that is probably coming, but not detailed yet. Okay, that's everything I have for CIP.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the CIP?
So motioned.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Then the capital improvement projects pass. Thank you, everyone. President's report, item number 7. Guess that's me.
It is.
I just want to welcome you all. Thank you for your service. Thank you for agreeing to do this. And as Ann said so beautifully before, I think you're going to enjoy working with the board and working with Wendy, because as Ann said, it's just all laid out there for you to read and understand so clearly. So thank you, Wendy. And we'll move on to the item number 8, the library director report.
All right. So we're going to talk about Dane County Library standards. We haven't talked about these in a long time. So the Dane County Library standards are set by Dane County Library Service, and they are standards based on different measures of use, including things like our collection size, how much money we spend on collection every year, how many internet computers we have, how many hours we're open. So there's a variety of standards. When you meet the standards, then you get to exempt from the library tax. The city of Fitchburg paid the library tax before we had a library. I believe in 2010, it was close to $1 million. So it's a significant amount of money. So it behooves us to meet the standards. When we opened, had an opening day collection of 60,000 items and the standard was 83,000. And we had to work real hard for a couple of years to get up to that standard. So we missed a couple of years. You can miss standards 3 years out of 10 without having to pay the tax. So they're really looking for people that are not maintaining their library the way they should. This is really a protection, I think, for libraries. If you're in a municipality where they want to take your money and spend it on other things, this is a really nice protection to say, like, I have to spend this much money on collection. You can't just take it and put it into streets or something. We have a great relationship with our municipality, so we don't really need that protection, but I think that's why it exists. Fitchburg is growing really fast. If you're not aware, I'm sure you all are. We're adding, I think we averaged 600 people a year for a while there, and now we're up to over 1,000. We are going to be absorbing the part of the town of Madison, which is going to give us 1,500 residents in October. So things are kind of ramping up, and we're getting close to a couple of them. So I've been talking with Dane County Library Service about this. Our current collection size is about 108,000, and we're okay this year, but we're going to have to grow the collection in the next couple of years in order to keep meeting that standard. We're also very close on staffing. So first of all, just so you know, I have requested that we start a work group among Dane County Library directors to review the standards, because I think some of them are out of date and I think that they need to be adjusted. The collection standard, we are well over the standard on how much we spend in a year for items, and we are well over the number of items we need to add in a year, but we're close to the overall collection size. And I think my argument there is that I don't know what benefit comes from not weeding our collection, which is kind of what they're saying we can't do. Like, if we have to keep increasing that size, then we keep adding things because we want new things, but we can't get rid of the things that are tired or old or not circulating. And I don't think that's helpful. I think that things check out less when they're crammed on a shelf with a lot of things that you don't want. So the Dane County Library Director, Tracy Harold, was very open to that discussion and happy to form a work group. My argument about the staffing one is going to be that if we're going to spend $212,000 on a sorter, I don't need as many staff as as maybe another library of this size. So I don't know how other people will feel about that. I think that a lot of libraries like that standard because it means they can add staff. I don't know. We could certainly add staff, and we probably will need to. If that standard doesn't change, we'll need to add staff in the next couple of years. We're at 19.25 FTE right now. And I think we'll need to get up to the between 20 and 21 FTEs. So for that's pretty significant for us. We're probably talking 3 or 4 part-time positions. And certainly we could put them to work, but I don't want to just hire people because of an arbitrary number. When I brought this up with Dane County directors, someone also mentioned that like there's the standard for the number of internet computers. Back in the day when computers were very expensive and internet access was hard to get, like, it made a lot of sense that we needed to have a lot of public access computers. Today, we have a lot of computers that people simply aren't using. People are bringing their own laptops, their own devices. So that has aged as well. She also reminded me that I think 5 years ago, we changed the standards because we used to have one for the number of periodicals, so the number of magazines in our collection, and they are dropping like flies. Like, Martha Stewart has given up publishing a magazine. Like, I don't know who's going to hang in there, but it's almost impossible to meet the standard that we had 5 years ago. So they just took that standard completely away. So there is, I think, room for adjustment here. I have also talked to Tracy about maybe an exception for us because of the town of Madison. I think we're going to grow by 3,000 people, which is really significant for 1 year for a community of this size. We're talking 10%. So I'm waiting on we have our first meeting of the work group on June 1st. So I will know more as we kind of get into that. And I will follow up with Tracy about an exception as well. I think we probably won't meet standards for this year for sure because of the staffing part of it. So what they'll do is take our annual report, the information that we give to the state, and they will look at that in view of what the Department of Administration says Fitchburg's population is as of January. So I think there's a real good chance we're not going to make it this year, which is not a huge deal. We've got 3 years. Like it wouldn't be the end of the world for us. It's not great. I don't love it. I wish that I knew this was coming. It kind of snuck up on us. So there's some things that I need to get on my radar that I'm checking more often. I think once we hit the collection standard, we all had a big party and we ate ice cream cake and we thought we were good forever. And Fitchburg's just growing. So we're gonna have to keep up with that. So one of the projects that's coming up, I mentioned that we're gonna have another budget amendment coming next month. And that is related to this situation. We spent the afternoon of our staff in service a couple of weeks ago, walking around the building, looking at collections, looking at where we could add materials if we needed to. So we've got a couple of collections that are just jam-packed that we can't get more DVDs without weeding some, just because of the space limitations we have. So we did a whole building walk around and we had circulation statistics as well, so we could tell which collections are circulating better than others. And what we've decided to do is in the picture book collection in the youth area, we've got face out shelving. So the books sit with the cover towards you and you have to flip through them. It's a really inefficient use of space. I think it kind of looked nice when they were shopping for it, but to actually function with it is hard. You can only fit, probably you can fill that like halfway before you run out of room to be able to see the titles. It's terrible for shelving because you're shelving kind of backwards, but also you can't see the spine labels when they're in the slots. So on our shelving, we've got 2 rows of that and then 1 row of just flat straight shelving where we shelve spine out. And what we've ended up doing is filling the top because that's a much easier place to find things. And the bottom, it varies drastically from week to week, depending on who's taking what, but it's shifting is also a problem. So what we're going to do is take some funding that we have saved this year. And so the outreach librarian position was vacant January, February, and March. We're going to take the salary money that we saved there and the health insurance money that we saved there, which is about $20,000. And we'd like to purchase replacement shelves for the face out bins. This will double the amount of picture books that we can have. So that significantly increases the numbers in our collection. That is also the highest circulating collection that we have. So I think it's going to be easier for patrons to find things. You know, circulation will certainly improve because of that, and it'll be easier for shelvers. So I think it's a win-win all the way around. I have been wanting to do this, honestly, since 2012. I was terrified to find out what it would cost. I didn't think we should put money towards it, but because we have this one-time savings, I think it's the smartest thing that we can do. It will help us with standards. It will help the patrons. It will help with circulation. I don't see a downside, except that we're going to have to recycle we're going to scrap the old steel shelves and maybe we'll make some money off of them. I don't know. But I think it's a good project that I didn't expect coming right now. So that's why it will be a budget amendment. Questions about that? That's a lot to take in. Sorry.
Wendy, thank you for your thoroughness on looking to this and anticipating the problems that are coming up with the acquisition of the new, the town of Madison coming in October. What kind of number do you think we're going to need to increase our collection to?
I think we'll need to be between 116 and 119,000.
So another 8,000 to 9,000 books.
And we typically add 9,000 books in a year. So that's not undoable. It just means that we can't really get rid of anything that we already have, which is not a great situation to be in.
Right.
Yeah. So I think when we meet as a work group to talk about that standard, like my point is going to be, if we're spending enough money and we're adding enough items, I don't know who cares about the total size of our collection. The top limit, most of these standards have a top limit, and the top limit for our collection size is 160,000 items. Like, I don't want to see this building with 160,000 items in it. I think it's going to look junky. I think it's going to look old. I think people are not going to find things. We're going to have to use the top shelf and the bottom shelf, which is really inconvenient for a lot of people. So that's going to be my argument, is that I don't think we need an overall collection standard, or I think it needs to be much lower.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does
Any
that,
other? Yeah.
does that number of volumes, is that like the total number of individual items, or like if you have 10 copies of something, does that only count as one?
No, it's items, except for we don't get to count all of our digital items. So we pay into Overdrive for Libby for ebooks. And we have to share that number with the state. So that's another topic of conversation for Dane County directors, is how do we adjust that, so that, because frankly, right now, I'd rather be putting more money into digital, or increasing, not more money than print, but increasing what we're putting into digital. But that's real hard to do when you have to increase the number of print volumes. But yeah, if we have 10 copies of a book, we count all 10 copies.
Wendy, I'm sorry, I've closed that page. How popular are our DVDs anymore? Are they?
They still are going pretty well. They're, I think, in top 5 collections.
Okay.
Here's another project, just so you know, this doesn't really weigh into this discussion, but our DVD shelving is one of the collections where we can't add anything without weeding. We are chock full. So we also have face out shelving there, and they're drawers, and I don't love them. They don't work very well. But we have a stacks manager in circulation, and she did all kinds of measurements and kind of tests. And I don't think that we would increase. We had been looking into, should we replace those shelves as well? And that doesn't increase our capacity very much more. But we are looking at switching from normal DVD cases to the slimline cases, which would give us more space. They break easier, so there is a downside. But I think it's still probably the right thing to do. Another change that is coming, we're voting on this as all directors of South Central tomorrow, is if you're familiar with the TV series, if you get those from the library, you get one disc from a season at a time instead of getting a whole season at one. So we call them exploding. So you get a season of whatever it is, Parks and Rec, and it's 5 discs. We take those as a system, take those and put them in 5 different cases. But then as the patron, like, you have to reserve those in the right order, and you don't know if they're going to come in the right order. So the argument amongst I guess the whole system is that we should package those as a season instead. So that's going to change some things about our shelving. But yeah, DVDs are checking out just as well as they always have. I really thought with streaming and the pandemic, it would drop off.
Thank you.
I just
Okay.
have a comment on
Yeah.
the children's book shelves, the picture books.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly don't understand, how difficult it is to put things in order, or, how to cram them full or anything, their use in the library.
Yeah.
But for kids of that age, I think it is nice to have face out shelving, because it's really hard for them to put them back where they pulled it out from.
Sure.
Like to be able to see the front of the book and choose a book that way, rather than, they're not looking for any particular author or the titles to be in order or anything like that.
Yeah. And I think we're just going to have to depend on parents to kind of give them some things to look at. I would say probably 80% of the selecting we see in that collection is parents, not kids. So I think it's still the right way to go, but I hear what you're saying for sure. And maybe we do some display things that'll help with that. I think there's possibilities. I think we could go back to doing some display on the top row, and we've got some display furniture. So, all right. I've already told you about the pop-up libraries for outreach. I'm very excited about that. We're also planning some, Southdale Park is the park in the town of Madison area that is going to be part of Fitchburg coming in October. And we are planning some evening events at that park with other city departments, kind of to welcome the community and to bring some fun things to them, but also so that they can come ask us kind of about services and what's going to be different for them. We've had an informational meeting already. So we're just kind of ramping things up to get them to feel welcome in the community. So those are going to be I think Thursday evenings, June, July, August, and then a big, I think, kickoff event in September. So that we'll be doing that as well. And I think that's everything I have for the library director's report.
Thank you, Wendy.
Mhm.
Moving on to number 9, committee reports, strategic
Toby,
planning.
excuse me, can I ask a question of Wendy?
Yeah.
I had a request, and I think this is the right time to ask it. On the website, on the evening book club, I had a request from a constituent asking if you could identify what that book is. Currently, it just says that they're available at the second floor reference desk, and they have to email to find out what, if they would like more information to register. If they knew what book it was, that would help them not have to make that.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Okay, so we're into committee reports. Strategic planning. We are working on updating the strategic planning calendar, so I will be bringing that to you in the next couple of months, so you can see everything that we've been doing since 2018. Facilities meetings continue about the chiller replacement. For those of you that are new, we have had a lot of issues with our chiller. So we have geothermal that comes into the building, and it is the chiller is what heats and cools the building. It has kind of had issues since we opened. I don't know that it was designed particularly well. There are different sizes of compressors. We have 2 compressors out of 6, I believe, that are completely not working. We were very nervous at the end of the winter that we were not going to be able to heat the building. We did okay. We're doing okay now for cooling, but the plans are to replace the chiller in, I think, April of 2023. Supply chain issues are a big deal there. Cost is a big deal there. But they are continuing to do meetings. We did hire, so that money that came out of the CIP went for the Strand and Associates. They're designing the system, and then they will put that out for bid to get multiple bids back to choose one. Personnel, this is good news. We are hiring 5 new shelvers. Very excited about that. We've been very short of shelvers for quite some time now, and it's been hard on everybody in the building. So we increased the pay rate, which I think helped, and we did a kind of a rolling application process, which I also think helped. So we've got 3 more that are coming on permanently, and we've got 2 that are just going to be here for the summer. Very excited about that. So we are close to being fully staffed. I hate to say that out loud because I feel like I jinx myself every time. So, but that's good news. Okay, and that's everything for committee reports.
Thank you. Item 10, announcements. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, June 15th via Zoom.
It will be on Zoom. It may be our last Zoom meeting. That remains to be seen. We're still working under the emergency order through the city, and I think that will have to be discussed at the council level and approved and or not for an extension. I haven't heard anything about that, so I don't know what direction that's leaning.
Thank you. And I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a
Okay.
motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Anne. I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Then we are adjourned at 6:23.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. That was a lot. I'm sorry.